Hello, and welcome back to Sharing a Chapter a Day. This is Do, Ra, me, and today I will be reading Chapter 122 of Engagement in Peril by Dara, Odoe, Sok. Chapter 122 is titled The Fate of the Infant Shinshin. During their trip home, father and daughter didn't really say much. It was normal in that sense. Kushina, with her head down and somewhat scared, waited for some word from her father. Any word would do for her at that moment. In his own way, Mr. Shinigami was trying to find the right words to say to his worried daughter. He knew she was scared and didn't want to scare her any more than she had to be. In his native tongue, and softly he spoke. Daughter, I know you are scared and worried about this baby inside of you. But you are my daughter, and I will let you decide what you want to do with your baby there. As a family, we will talk about this matter and do what is best for you and our family. He firmly reassured Kushina once again, by holding her left hand in both his grasping hand. Kushina, feeling warm from her father's word of kindness and not of blame, had little shame on her mind. She felt secure for the moment while the jeep pulled up to their family home and dropped them off. The two passengers got out of their jeep and bowed to the young private first-class driver and thanked him, while he smiled, said goodbye, and made a U-turn, returning and heading toward the command that he had just come from. Kushina walked into their home and took her shoes off before stepping onto the upper floor, showing signs of respect for her home and ancestor, while her father, still standing outside, faced and looked on in the jeep's direction as the young marine drove off and out of his sight. Officer Shinigami pulled out his pack of filtered cigarettes and smacked one cigarette out of the paperboard box, lit it up, and took a quick smoke. After a few fast drags of the cigarette, he was done. He tossed a used filter across the concrete floor, and then he turned around and went in their home. Like his daughter, he made sure to remove his shoes and then step onto the higher floor to be greeted by his loving wife and the two other children. Mr. Shinigami whispered some sweet nothing into his loving wife's ear and mentioned that he would discuss somewhat matter later on, after the two younger kids went to bed. That afternoon, the family stayed warm together by snuggling by the fire that they used for cooking and to warm up the house. The younger children read books and played some small games, while Kushina and her mother prepared that night's meal and dishes. Mr. Shinigami read over some local newspaper while the radio was turned on to the local news station then. Once dinner was prepared and already set, the entire family sat down, surrounding a small dining table, and went about to enjoy their meal together. The young children snickered and laughed as they consumed their dinner of beef stew, broiled fish, sticky steamed rice, and sauté vegetable. Kushina kept pretty quiet throughout the family dinner meal, only saying a few words to remind her younger sibling to finish eating their well-prepared meals. At times, her father looked at her with worries on his thought. He wanted very badly for his daughter to be okay from all this. In his heart, and he was still regretful that he wasn't there in time to save his oldest daughter from all those horrible things that had happened to her. He still blamed himself for her misfortune that night. His loving wife too knows that the worry on his face, and softly patted his thigh as though to reassure him that they too will get through this. She smiled warmly as she lifted a fist from the serving dish with chopstick and placed them into his eating plate, next to the sticky steamed rice, as he smiled back at her as though saying, "Thanks, honey bunch." Once the young children finished their meals, they asked to be excused and were allowed to leave the family dining table. They gathered their toys and books while proceeding to go to their shared room to turn in for the night. They bowed and thanked their parents and older sister for the good meal, and they went about their business in their bedroom several feet down the hall. Kushina and her parents continued to eat, and once they finished, she and her mother cleaned up the table, folded it back up, and set things to where they once belonged. They washed the dishes and utensils while Mr. Shinigami went about to sweep the living room floor and mats with a straw broom. Once all the cleaning and storage was done with, the three resumed and gathered to talk together in their family living room to discuss what was going to become of Kushina's baby, which was developing inside of her. The two females allowed Mr. Shinigami to begin the conversation. He slowly gathered his thought and made sure what he wanted to say was going to be understandable and comprehensible by his wife and daughter. Tonight we are going to see what will become of our daughter's baby. There are several options that we can do, and we will discuss those options. I believe that the ultimate decision will be up to you, Kushina, he calmly stated for the gatherers then. For the next several hours, the three conversed throughout the night, weighing the options and the ideas of abortion, adoption, and abandonment, and raising the child. The last three, those were the only three options that they had discussed about that night. None wanted to abort the child since it was already growing inside Kushina's belly, and they believed that it would be morally wrong to do so. They were the type that they were scared and worried about the retribution of their ancestors if they should deny a living soul to be born and live out his or her life on Earth. The thought of giving the child for adoption was a good option, but the thought of someone else raising her child didn't sit well with Kushina. She feared that the child may look different from normal Japanese children, and that they may cause him or her somewhat terrible experience in life for the orphanage and the family he or she may end up with, or he or she to be abandoned and given up for adoption. Worse than adoption was to abandon a child for some stranger or animal to find. The fear of stranger who would take advantage of the child was too much for the whole family, and the thought of some wild animal finding and perhaps devouring the poor child was even worse. So that idea was totally tossed to the side as well. The only and humane option for the child, a growing fetus in Kushina, was to raise it as their own. After all, it was Kushina's baby, and she felt that it was her duty to raise it as such, although it was an unforgettable mistake. Before turning in and off to bed, Kushina and her parent agreed that they should keep and raise the child. Though Kushina was young and naive, she knew better and wanted to give parenthood a try. At the very least she could do for this person inside of her was to give this child and its innocent give its innocent soul a chance at life. With the family agreement and understanding of what was to become of Kushina's baby, the family slept soundly and carried on with their daily living as normal as can be. Months passed and life seemed to function as normal. Seasons changed and sounds of life blossomed as the spring and summer passed on. Kushina's belly began to enlarge, and her pace seemed to slow. Kushina's belly had gotten way too large, much larger than normal-sized babies that are born to Asian mothers then. She had put on several extra pounds, and slowly she began to call in sick from her work at the Sakura bar. With her boss understanding her situation, she was allowed to stay home and then tend to her womanly and physical needs then. Thank you for listening. This is the end of Chapter 122. Be on the lookout for Chapter 123, titled Bastard Demon Child Released. This is Do, Ra, me, and I'll see you later. Thank you.